In my opinion, the church of the 21st century is standing on the abyss of nihilism. We almost don't exist anymore. But even more than that, the overriding culture around the world, in this global world, is that nothing is important, and nothing could be less true. What I bring to the church is a radical sense of finding the people who you would least expect to be called through the Spirit into the community of Christ. In my experience, I have seen people who are drawn to Christ, who are drawn to the spiritual life, people who we think of as being in the nuns category, the spiritual but not religious category, who are seeking desperately for that thing that is true, that thing that is real, that thing that is authentic. I find these people in clubs. I find these people in choirs. I've met them in community centers. I have seen them in the places where you would least expect. This is exactly the kind of place that God always finds people. He finds them in a prostitute. He finds them in a manger. This is where God works, and this is where I'm interested in working. What I believe that ordination can bring for me is being able to merge this sacramental life with this hunger for Christ, to be able to draw people in and let the Holy Spirit do its work through the sacraments in expanding God's church and really just blowing up Christ's kingdom here on earth. So when I think about what my call is, I think that my call is finding those people in the places where it's most organic for me to find them and bringing the sacramental, the holy, the sacred, the sense of real meaning, the sense of real life to the people who are the hungriest, the thirstiest, and who are already being invigorated by the Spirit. I want to talk about some of the gifts that I bring and how they can be helpful to the needs of the Diocese of Connecticut. When I was back in Portland, I did a lot of projects that were classical crossover, where I would bring people together from two different styles of music, two different disciplines, and create brand new programs for brand new audiences using unusual spaces in a new way. That's something that I think I could really bring to the Diocese of Connecticut. Right now, I see this as a diocese that's saddled with a lot of old things, a lot of beautiful things, a lot of wonderful things that aren't being used to the fullness of their potential. And I think that if we look at some of these buildings, some of these spaces, and some of these traditions that we still have, that we love, and think about ways they can be repurposed, just changing the seating, for example, inside of a church, rearranging some of the way that we have the structure inside. If we think about some of the ways that we set up our ritual lives, our weekly schedule for worship, if we think about is Sunday the most important day for us? Is that the most convenient or important day for other people? How can we repurpose what we already have so that we're bringing new audiences, so that we're bringing new people in to experience it for the first time? I really love all of these wonderful traditions so much. And what I want to do is bring the best of those traditions to people that didn't grow up with them so that they can see them with fresh eyes. I want to find people that we haven't been looking for, people who are primarily Spanish-speaking, the largest growing population in the United States, and certainly a growing population in this diocese. I want to look for people who might, because of gender issues or because of race issues, feel that they've been disenfranchised from the church, and help them to feel comfortable within our own traditions and to bring their traditions into ours as well. This is something I got a lot of practice with as a Marquand Chapel minister. This is something I was experimenting with as a music director back at the Mainline Church in Portland. And this is something I'm very excited about bringing to this diocese. One of the other things that I feel that I really bring is an entrepreneurial spirit. When I started in Mulieribus, which is the early music women's ensemble in Portland, nothing like that existed at the time. But I really believed in it, and I really believed that that's something that the world needed. And we also brought in a component that a lot of people said would never work. We were a not-for-profit organization that gave part of our proceeds to other not-for-profit organizations, so that we as a collective group could support the material needs of people in our community. 10 years later, we're still doing the same thing. The group has grown, the board has grown, and we're still committed to our mission to give to others and provide their material needs, even as we're providing for the spiritual needs of people to have great music and great art. I think this same spirit is something that can really inform this diocese, looking for ways that we can bring real vitality through things that people really enjoy. This is the way that the Holy Spirit works, I think, and this is what I bring to the Diocese of Connecticut. So how am I dealing with the ambiguity of this process? I think making the video was the first step in accepting the ambiguity, which is a little bit of a funny answer, but it's true. It's unusual and it's different, but I'm ready for that. I think as working as a gig musician for the last 10 or 12 years, I think running a small arts organization, and I think working in church in general has just really prepared me for a life of ambiguity. You really hope for the best. You know that you don't know what's going to happen next, and you really live into the now. In a sense, it's a pretty high calling, actually. I think to just really accept what's happening in this moment. In terms of feedback, I think working closely with the board of directors, working closely with the artistic director, and working closely with audiences, you get a lot of feedback of all kinds about what your work is like. You get feedback that's direct and indirect, and I think one of the graces of this process is getting direct and honest feedback and being able to provide direct and honest feedback. It's certainly something we practiced in CPE. It's definitely something I experienced as a voice teacher and as a choral conductor, and it's something that I've come to respect and appreciate very much as a professional on any level.